Okay. Good morning. I had a good conversation with Mr. Anastasiadis. As you know, the leaders' meeting that was originally scheduled for yesterday has been postponed to this Saturday. What we did yesterday instead was to have a negotiators meeting. There will be another one on Wednesday. Let me highlight a couple of things. Last week, the two negotiators were jointly in Brussels. That was a historic visit. It has never happened before in this format. They were received at the highest possible level, including by President Juncker, and they had very solid, good discussions together, presenting the views not of either side, but of the two sides jointly towards the European Commission, and they were reassured, as I have been, of the full commitment of the European Union, the European Commission, to the work that's going on here, not only as a political statement, but on several technical issues, preparations for the full implementation of a key in the northern part of Cyprus as one example, but also several other aspects, as the European dimension is integral to the entire settlement. We need the full support of the European Union, who works together with me, with the United Nations, with the IMF and the World Bank on a number of technical issues that are now of high importance. And we are also emphasizing in this phase several lines of work which are not necessarily divergent in nature, but which has to be done in order to make solid preparations for a phase where the final political agreement can be made, so that some of this technical work is behind us rather than ahead of us at that time.
Regarding the fund, this fund for a solution, do you have any results up to now?
Well, there's a lot of people is involved in that, and we're looking at a combination of different elements, public donations from donor countries, private sector investments, and a series guarantees, a series of different instruments that together could create the necessary funding for a settlement. And there's more work on that than ever before. It's of course complicated work, but it's also something that we have high on our radar screen.
Is there anything tangible on that issue?
Well, I mean, it's going as well as it can, in the sense that, but you know, it's not like it's being filled every day. It's filled up a little bit more. That's not the way it works, because it has to be part of a final understanding. But there are still outstanding issues on. There are some final issues on property, for instance, and other parts of the deal which the experts need to have in order to calculate the full package. But I want to reiterate. I said before, but I want to say again. In Cyprus, you talk about the cost of a settlement as if you're kind of losing money. The reality is that all economic studies, warmly supported by international economists, is that a solution will create more wealth than a non-solution over time. So that having a united island at peace with itself and its neighbors will create a higher growth trajectory, more jobs, more prosperity. So the solution is actually, it will pay for itself. The only issue is that you need an upfront sum of money in order to make some of the initial investments. And this is money that's coming into the island. It's not money that's leaving the island, so there's more money in circulation, not less. So I think some of the Cypriot discussions, and this on both sides, quite equal, sounds like it costs as if you're spending money on nothing. But in reality, you're spending money in order to create even more money, and that's why also the private sector, I emphasize the private sector dimension, because the world today is full of private sector money with nowhere to go because of uncertainty about the development patterns of several economies. If Cyprus comes together, it can be one of the beacons that can be attractive for these investors, and there will be more, as I said, prosperity and jobs and opportunity, and people will hopefully come back from those who left the country and come home. So I think this is a positive dimension, and the two sides agree. And it's one of these issues where we are not negotiating between a Turkish Cypriot and a Greek Cypriot position. There's agreement, for instance, on tax harmonization, on how to develop a fiscal federal system that works in order to have an effective economy that delivers, that reaps the opportunity for growth that settlement will provide.
We have one more question. It's about an issue that the leaders have argued during the last stage. The unifying Cyprus will be a transformation of the Republic of Cyprus or not?
I am not going to make any further. I mean, this has been discussed in the joint declaration of 11th of February 2014, and the joint declaration is a premise for our discussion. That's been clear all the time. So I've been a little bit surprised that this has been an issue again. I don't see this as something that will be very difficult at the end of the day.
The state is actually ready for a common preservation. How do I
Well,
see this?
I think so. First, this is leader-led, so it's up to the leaders to decide how they want to communicate about it. If the leaders agree that they should talk more jointly about what they actually have achieved so far, I would support that, but I will leave it to the leaders to make their judgment because they know their own communities best.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll answer just this. I have said many times that I'm in favor of transparency and openness whenever you can. So the more the merrier. On the other hand, I also need to reiterate that in negotiations, there's a lot of complex interdependent issues which make sense only in the broad context. And leaders may feel that they're not ready to share the full context, and hence something that individually might seem either very good or very bad is only is possible to discuss when you have the full context. So I will actually defer to the leaders again, but this is a conversation they will be having. How do they move forward when it comes to public communication? I think that's an important part. And I would also like to reiterate that the advice from a United Security Council in the resolution that came out some weeks ago, included a statement that the public communication on this issue is of high importance.